All right, welcome back to this week's episode of Big Deck Energy. We are back with another episode. I am Allie.
I am Scala.
And he is, yes. And tonight we have a lot of stuff to go over. So we decided we're going to start tonight off with some sort of resource material. We actually had a lot of inquiries on our last podcast about how to get started in D&D or just general table topping. So we came up with a list of things that you're going to have to do, some resources you can use. Then we're adding a new segment. We're going to be covering like news and gaming. And we have a great segment planned today on the combat wheelchair. We also have some shout outs that we want to include like we did last time. And of course, game review.
Yes, absolutely. So you could follow us. Our YouTube channel is Big Deck Energy, Instagram, Big Deck Energy Podcast, and Twitter, Big Deck Energy _.
Yeah. And SoundCloud.
And SoundCloud.
Yeah, just Big Deck Energy.
Just Big Deck Energy.
SoundCloud. So we have a lot to get covered, so I guess we're going to jump right into today's segment.
Yes. So first-time beginners, resources, what's out there. Best part, there's plenty out there, and it is easy to find, and most of it is free. I mean,
most of it is free. So very basic starting is probably watch something.
Yes.
Watch a video of whatever the system is. If it's D&D, watch they literally have like 10-minute guides of how-tos. So watch like how to play D&D or watch somebody play D&D. YouTube is an easy resource because there's hundreds of thousands of people that have broken it down in every way you could possibly imagine. If you're a visual learner, there's like people who draw it. If there's people who write it on the screen. There's people who actually play it, so you can watch people play it. And you don't have to go to big sources. I think we've talked about this before. You can do smaller things, so it feels more like what your game will feel like instead of some of the voice actors that your game will not be like.
Yeah, no matter what your preferred like format is or the way you learn, there's resources out there. Visual, reading wise, you could find pretty much anything. So we're going to talk about some of those now.
Yeah. So good. So we already talked about YouTube. I think that's the obvious one. The thing when it comes to any tabletop game, there really is reading involved to some degree. Even if you...
Yeah, there's really no way around it.
Yeah, even if you plan on watching something, you still are reading to a degree. You're still going to have to read when you make your characters. You're still going to have to read when you figure out the systems. So I think we were talking about this the other day, is that something basic that a lot of people don't realize is like you have to read the core book, and you don't have to read it from start to finish.
No, definitely not.
Or the player's handbook.
Yeah, and you don't need to understand everything that's in there either. It's just so you have a basis, and that's just kind of you doing your part as a player. You know,
or the DM if you're learning how to play.
Exactly.
But that's you doing your part, is be invested in the way that you can be. And I think a lot of people want to think that they could just like walk in and not read or anything. But we're very big on supporting, like we've talked about, local game shops and stuff like that. There are resources online that will give you samplings at a low cost.
Yes, low cost.
Low cost of free 99.
There is a trove of information out there.
Yeah. So we do highly recommend that you look up the source material before you go and purchase it completely. If I'm at all interested in a game, I buy the book. I have tons of books.
Of course, yeah. I'm one of those people. What I'll do is I'll download the PDF while I wait for the book to come in just to get a head start. But I like having the physical book too. Again, addictive personalities, it's what we do.
Literally. Oh my God, it's so bad. I have so many books.
I know.
We have so many things to read. So reading the book, it's going to happen. And if you are super interested in playing a game, it's something that you have to understand that it's going to be part of the process. Mm-hmm. And again, you're not reading start to finish. Most of the time, if you're a player, you're reading basic mechanics and you're reading what you want to play. So class, race, whatever that is.
Yeah, and if you have like a a veteran DM, they're going to kind of point out what you need to know for session 1 or session 0, I should say. And again, it's really not that much information. A lot of it's just going to be based off of, well, a lot of session 0 is actually you're building your character at session 0.
Together, yeah.
Yeah, so you don't have to worry too much about, being the new person, not understanding. They expect you to ask questions. You should ask questions, as we touched on last episode.
Yeah, and this is just to point out that, like, we're not trying to put the responsibility all on the DMs or the experienced players. You, as somebody who's interested, need to be invested yourself, because you'll never get anything out of it the way that you do unless you're invested.
Yeah, and you honestly, you really only have to do it once, and then you're using it for reference. So
yeah, pretty much. Another great resource, Reddit, is
absolutely.
Yeah, Reddit is huge. It's really cool to be able to go on there and ask questions. They have questions about the most obscure things. Like, if you could possibly think of something, it's on Reddit. If you were like, oh, I wonder if this thing exists in D&D, or what is this exact ruling, it's on Reddit. You Google it and it goes to Reddit.
That's literally for everything. Even the Game of Thrones card game, when we started, anytime I had a question about a mechanic, there was somebody who already asked it. So
yeah. So Reddit is great. It also has, Reddit is good because not only does it answer questions, but it has links to everything. It has links to
the source
PDFs.
material.
It has links to Google Docs that will like help you make characters for the first time. It has links to people's Discords, to Roll20. Oh, speaking of Roll20, that's
another
great resource.
Absolutely.
Roll20 does have a function that's looking for group, which is also the function you would look up on Reddit, is LFG, looking for group, or looking for players. But the general branch is looking for group, or LFG, and Roll20 does the same thing. So they have a looking for group like thing.
Kind of like
like Reddit.
Thing, yeah.
So if you're looking for a game, Roll20 is great because they are a platform that actually runs and hosts tabletop games virtually, and you can play pretty much anything.
Mm-hmm.
And they have character sheets built in, so like when you start a game, it's already like preloaded. And
yeah, and no matter whether it's Dungeons & Dragons, Burning Wheel, pretty much any system, you could find a lot of community created like resources where your character sheets you could do everything online, and it kind of builds a lot of it for you. That's what we used initially for Burning Wheel.
Right, yeah, we found like an online character burner.
Yeah, I think it was fan made. I don't even think it was like
it was definitely fan made. But those resources are really good. There's the same thing. D&D Beyond is great. They do it like for specifically Dungeons and Dragons. They literally walk you step by step on how to make a character. And it literally explains every single thing. It's like, oh, this is what this race does. This is what this class does. And obviously, with D&D Beyond, with Roll20, with all those things, if you pay a small fee on all of them, you have access to more material, more resources, and all of that. Discord is a growing community.
Yeah, I mean, definitely for starters as well. Even if the other thing I like about it, even if you just hop on like a server or something like that, you could pick up a lot of, especially the play-by posts, just by watching people do it without having to jump right in and get involved yourself.
Yeah. And Discord now has bots, so they have like Disboard, I think it's called, and you can look up like Discord servers with tags. So like if you wanted like a D&D play-by post, you could literally look up D&D play-by post server.
Oh really? I actually didn't know that.
Yeah, and if it's open, it'll have like an open link, and then you can join it.
There you go, another great resource.
Yeah. So those I think cover resources, right? I think
the main ones, yeah. You have things like Facebook, where like Facebook communities are really helpful. That's more interactive with other people and players.
And that's kind of a problem right now with the Pandy.
With the Pandy, yes.
Kind of an issue right now is some of those resources are being limited. So Facebook is actually a good one when you are looking for in-person groups.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially because they're area specific. Like I think people are weirded out a little bit on Reddit when they put like where they're from. But on Facebook, it's already sort of like filtered. So if you join a New Jersey D&D page, you know that all these people already live in New Jersey, so it's a little less creepy. I mean, it doesn't creep me out, but
yeah, I could see how like some people, especially if you're new to TTRPGs, could be a little turned off by that.
So. There's also a few websites that if you Meetup, I don't know if it's meetup.com, but like, well, it sounds like a dating website.
It does sound like a dating website.
But they do the same thing where like they post events. So it'll be like when we were like into Magic, they had like Magic stuff on there, like D&D groups that would meet weekly. And game stores, when it's not the Roni, most game stores do weekly D&D meetups.
Yes.
And they do something called Adventure League. So D&D has something specifically D&D. I can't speak for all the other systems. But D&D has something called Adventure League, which is, for those who don't know, is when you go to a game store and it's run and hosted by the game store and DMs that volunteer for it. It's basically like an honor system D&D game where like there's specific rules and you play, but you get to keep your character no matter where you go. So if you play at one game shop, you have an identification card.
Yeah, you could pretty much sign. We signed up at Time Warp.
A Time Warp, yeah. But you have like an identification card, and if you play at one game store and you are approved through Adventure League, like your DM signs off on it, the game store submits it, and your character is like a level 15 bard, you can take it to Florida and go play at one of their Adventure League game stores.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So you can go play at one of their Adventure League game stores and continue with your level 15 bard type of thing, which is a really cool, I guess it's not so much a resource, but it's a really cool thing that comes out of.
Yeah, just the fact somebody created that and thought it through like that. Yep.
So there really is like expansive communities. Game stores, like I said, once they reopen and they're regular, check out your local game store's schedule, because I know ours is like Wednesday nights they do Adventure League, Friday nights they do Magic. Like, so those are the easiest resources to get a hold of. And like Scala said, literally free. All of those are free with the exception of like if you wanted to pay.
Yeah,
like if
they'll give you additional resources.
If you want to pay on Roll20, if you want to pay on D&D Beyond, if you want to go to the game store and buy all the books,
which you should, again,
which we did. The first time we went, Scala rolled in with a backpack of like 7 books.
I did. I had no idea how to use any of them. Even when we started the campaign, I just started pulling out books and dice and all this stuff. I had no idea what to look at. I'm looking at like the
monster manual.
The monster manual.
Yeah. So those are super basic resources and a really easy way to figure out where to dip your foot in. I mean, the first thing is you have to figure out what game you want to play. And we say D&D just because that's the most easily accessible.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Most popular, easily accessible, but that doesn't mean you have to play D&D. A lot of people play Pathfinder.
It is extremely
which
popular,
is again, if people don't know, it is basically an older version, a more complex version of D&D that when D&D went on to become easier for more people to understand, other people were like, no, that's too easy, and then kept Pathfinder and kind of kept it. And it's well loved. I just bought Pathfinder too, if you didn't know.
Of course,
the book is huge. It's like this big.
It's like Bible size, like Burning Wheel.
No, this thick. It's like
wow.
like one of those giant books. Yeah, Burning Wheel is Bible sized. What was I saying? Oh, what game you want to play? So D&D, just super accessible, super easy, and really played a lot. Like everyone plays D&D. Like there's really like no one I know who like hasn't tried D&D nowadays.
Yeah, if they're in the community, they've done it at some point, and you can find countless campaigns on YouTube.
And Pathfinder. So D&D and Pathfinder, I think, are the two most popular.
Yeah.
Warhammer, if anybody likes the miniatures, they have a role-play game that's really popular, Rogue Trader.
Shout out to all you people out there painting miniatures. I am not talented enough to do that. I've
painted 2 miniatures, and they're like the proudest things I've ever done. But I spent hours on them. Hours. So, and we've talked about this last time too. There's literally a game for anything you could possibly think of.
Yep.
They're coming out with the Umbrella Academy.
Are they really?
Yes.
That
tabletop game. I think it's a card game, but whatever. It doesn't matter. I mean,
I'm Klaus. I'm calling it now.
Okay. I want to be Diego.
Perfect.
I don't have to worry. I'll just. Oh wait, spoilers. Never mind. Let me not say. Watch Umbrella Academy. So that's it. Decide on the game you want to play. Start with YouTube. See if it's something that's interesting to you. I highly recommend looking at the pros and cons of them. And if you've never played a tabletop game, you might not understand what those pros and cons are when people start saying them. But eventually even if you've never played, you'll understand if you're going to like it or not, right? Like, oh, do you like this overly complex system or do you want something super simple? Do you like role playing a lot or do you like combat a lot?
Yeah, exactly. And you could find one shots for all of them. So this isn't a huge commitment you have to make. You could literally try out a one shot of each system, decide which one you like the most, and then find a party that's willing to invite you in or play with you.
Yeah. And don't get discouraged when you can't find a group right away. I think is something else I would say is that sometimes it takes time to find the right group and the group that you're really going to like vibe with.
Yeah, we just got lucky, like our friend group
just happened to be interested in it, and if that's not you, then
and I think everybody goes through that little uncomfortable phase. Even when I first start Fallout or even Magic U, like I didn't know a lot of people on it, so I was definitely more like conservative and reserved.
Yeah.
But you get comfortable really quick, and the chats are always active and
yeah,
especially Magic U.
Yeah, and if you ever find yourself uncomfortable with the group, there's really no reason you can't leave and go find another. Like, that's the beauty of it, especially when you're not meeting in person. Like, I'm not saying you're not putting anyone out, but you're not putting anyone out, right? Like, it's really easy to, like, go on Discord and tell someone you're not interested in a game anymore.
Yeah, the only way I could see it as you putting them out is if you just don't say anything and you start missing sessions. Just don't do that. Don't be afraid to say, look, this isn't for me. That's completely fine. But if you're just, if there's a session tomorrow and you just decide you're not going to go and you don't say anything, you're going to ruin the experience for everybody. And remember that the DM probably put a lot of work into that session.
Into making sure that you're integrated and your character is and your backstory and all that kind of stuff.
Yep. And the same goes for DMs. Remember your players are looking forward to these games. So don't tell them like a half hour before canceling a game, especially, right now it's a little easier with the Pandy and the Roni, but if I was working, I'd have to find time to do this type of stuff.
Right. And that happens to us.
It does.
In games that we play. And right now we're currently not working because our industry is not back yet. But we do play with other people that have jobs.
Yes.
And they move their work schedules around to play. So it's super...
Not to mention families, kids, stuff like that. Relationships.
Yeah, like those other people have kids. And we don't,
exactly.
but we're each other's kids.
Pretty much.
But yeah, they have kids and families. So yeah, we've seen it firsthand. So, but that's all like etiquette stuff down the line. But that's it for resources, I think, right? Like we don't have...
Yeah, and we're going to go over this more in following episodes. We'll talk more about like maybe we'll do something on creating character sheets, stuff like that.
Yeah, we're thinking of breaking it down so we have our own resources to give you guys. That you'll be able to access through our YouTube channel. We've talked about doing breakdowns of how to make Burning Wheel characters because there's a lot of resources for D&D.
Just not as much for Burning Wheel, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately. So we've talked about those things too. There's always content to be made. There's always places to find information. Mm-hmm. And, we're hoping to also be content creators who can help in that community. And the real thing is to find the community that you feel at home with.
Absolutely.
I love many, many games. There are some communities that are not as inviting.
We'll talk about VAS at some point.
There's some communities that aren't as inviting, and I don't mean it in a negative way. There's just some communities that are so grounded in what they've cultivated as like, I don't want to use the word cult, but that's kind of what it is because like they didn't get the notoriety that like D&D got, right? So like they've made these specific RPGs, these specific tabletops very important to their community. So when new people come in and expect it to be like D&D or expect it to be like Pathfinder, they get a little upset, which I get.
Yeah, it doesn't.
I really do.
It doesn't off the bat make them assholes. Some of them are assholes. It doesn't automatically make them assholes, though, right? I mean, it could just be that it's a misconstrued
sensitive.
that maybe they didn't maybe they're thinking the newcomer didn't put enough time into looking at the system and kind of figuring out. But it can be difficult to kind of, if you have no resources and you're not watching campaigns or you don't have any friends that are involved in it yet.
It's hard.
Even reading, if you read front to back cover of the player's handbook, it's still difficult to kind of get a sense of how it plays out and what you're supposed to be doing.
So don't get discouraged just because you go into a community that might not be super inclusive.
Absolutely.
All at once. It doesn't mean, like you said, it doesn't mean they're assholes. It doesn't mean anything bad about them, but there is the possibility that you could walk into a community and because you're not super grounded in whatever that community is, that you do get treated some type of way.
Yeah, and then you could just walk away. And the other thing to mention is once you find a group of people that you're comfortable with, most gamers are not in one game. Like you could, they're going to take you through the ropes. They'll show you a bunch of different systems they play in. They'll invite you to other games. That's what Allie did for me. That's how I ended up so involved. Before that, it was literally just one shots at Allie's house for me.
And that's really a great point because you guys always make fun of me for being in a shit ton of games. But really, they're not like games that I go and find. It'll be like, I met these people who invite me, I really like your play style, like come here. And it really happened with Play by Post because a lot of people like my writing style. So I got invited through like this group of friends was like, join this game. And then I would meet 5 new people in that game who then would invite me to another game where I would meet another 5 people. So your community grows very quickly once you just get your foot in the door. Like I'm on like 30 Discords. 30 Discord servers.
It'll never cease to amaze me. All right, should we go into
so
start setting up?
Talking about being inclusive, and this is kind of a good segue point, is that there are communities that are not nearly as inclusive as you would want them to be, and that's kind of where we're getting this news article from. Is trying to break those barriers and just make some changes that are super important to the world. So for our next topic, we're going to go into some gaming news about the combat wheelchair. And for this, we're going to bring in our third member of Big Deck Energy. She plays Celia Havenheart on our Burning Wheel playthrough. And Sarah, she's coming somewhere.
From the thank you, Mitch.
Someone's clapping from the ether.
Hey,
hello, welcome.
Hello, friends.
Okay.
How you doing?
Good. So, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi. My name is Sarah. Some of you might recognize me who play Celia or C. Hey, you were right, Havenheart.
Hey.
I had to think about that for a second too.
Copper.
Not Copperfield.
Rude.
Though I mean,
So rude.
that should be your alias, though. I still
Don't tell
say
the guards
Copperfield
that.
anyway. But yeah. Thank you for having me on the show, guys.
I mean, you're part of the group.
It's in your contract.
It's in your contract. No, so Sarah is 3 of the 4 members that make up our Burning Wheel. Not Burning Wheel, Big Deck Energy team. But she is part of the Burning Wheel. And we brought her on here to have a little conversation. Are you excited?
Always excited.
Ready? All right.
I was born ready.
Born ready?
No, just kidding.
So we're going to turn it over to Scala to kind of do the introduction. Why don't you tell us what we're talking about, and then we'll just kind of go around the table and,
Yeah, sounds good. So I just want to read this off of kind of version 1 of it. So combat wheelchair is what we'll be talking about today. It is made with the adventurer in mind. The combat wheelchair is supportive and intuitive, designed for both daily activity and the pressures of combat during one's adventures. It can be specifically tailored to its user with a variety of intuitive upgrades, designed and created by first-rate artificers and their disabled consultants to ensure high-grade comfort and excellent efficiency. Designed based on the chairs used in sports such as wheelchair basketball and wheelchair rugby, the combat wheelchair can withstand high impact and even work as a weapon itself, providing the user with a means of both defense and attack. And I think this is really the important part here. Anyone can be an adventurer.
Yeah, they can.
Yes, they can. So, this is something that was created by Sarah Thompson, which is, I've just pretty much I must have watched the D&D Beyond
Interview?
like 15 times before coming here. It's truly inspiring. I recommend everybody go and watch that. Just a little background on that. As well as creating homebrew and freelance content for tabletop role-playing games such as D&D, Thompson has contributed to the Witcher RPG as part of their work with publisher R. Talsorian Games and founded disabled streaming community Heroes Without Limits. All right, so what is everybody's takes on Combat Wheelchair?
Super excited. Super excited when you guys first told me. It was both when we got that text message like, hey, we're gonna be talking about combat wheelchairs. My first reaction was, oh my God, that's so badass. And then the second one was, oh my God, right? Like, how have we not, like, you know what I mean? Like, how has this not been thought of
That's
before?
the shocking part, isn't it? Like,
and then
that
like,
is the shocking
or
part.
like it was one of those, and again, I think this is such a great example of privilege, but right. But as someone who is able-bodied, right, I would have never thought about it. But then when hearing about this, it was just both like, oh man, that's so cool, and then like oh my God, like we're so dumb. Like, how could we have missed this, right? Especially when I know when you guys were talking about character creation, right? When I feel like the most authentic characters, at least that I make, that I like, you know, there's always a little part of you that's in there, right?
Absolutely.
And like
100%.
Yeah. And I can't imagine, you know, it's just like, especially mobility is so important, right? Such a big thing in real life, right? That you would think you would have it reflected in fictions, but it's so awesome to see Sarah Thomas, but also you mentioned before she's a part of like a collective, was it? Or who are working towards building more.
They have a community that they're working
they have
with.
a community. Let me have it right here. Heroes Without Limits.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's the coolest thing about homebrewing, right? Though, hey, I think they have a Patreon. Pay them.
They do have a
Pay them
Patreon.
shit. Pay them
They do
because
have a
this takes
Patreon.
so much
It is
work.
So much work.
That's another
So
thing
much
from
work.
watching the
Pay them.
interview. Sarah, they are in their 4th year of university, and this took 6 months to create, and it's
Yeah.
free. It's free content. So just most people can't hold a part-time job and go to college.
No.
So the fact that somebody
I can't.
took the time,
I can't.
took, the 6 months it took to create this, and then starting off with getting some negative feedback, which took every ounce of me to not like start
flip that
tweeting
on.
at people.
Yeah.
People, you guys know my anger issues.
That's, I mean, personally for me, I'm going to reiterate what Sarah said. I mean, it is one of those things that I am surprised that there's no system for it in place already. And then thought, well, yeah, like, but how is that not, and like, how have we never realized that? And it is, because we don't live in that, like, we don't experience that firsthand. And that is, that's some ableist shit right there.
I mean,
And I didn't think about it because I was like, I had this same reaction. I was like, how the fuck does this not exist? Like, how is it? And if I had somebody who's like, oh, I want to play a character in a wheelchair, of course I would be like, yeah, sure. But then I thought, like, how is there not a system for it? How is there not?
Yeah, how did it take this long? And I'll admit that when I first heard about this, my initial reaction was, well, why? Because trying to put myself in that situation, I felt like in a fantasy setting, I wouldn't want to play somebody who was in a wheelchair. But I think that's a part of the ableist view is you're looking at it as if they're victims, and I mean,
they're not.
They're not victims.
Yeah.
They're survivors.
It's
they're
part
just
of their.
people.
It's part of their life.
Yeah, and there's such like a great. I know, especially around in the deaf community, there is a lot of culture that we do not have access to, right? And I think the great thing is, and anybody from anyone from D&D Beyond or any of the other big gaming structures, I think it's so important not just to hear what people are homebrewing, right? So so this community, but also like just look for things that are in our blind spots.
Yeah,
We're always gonna have a ton of them, but not only see what's in our blind spots, hire them.
Yeah, and it's super interesting. I mean, she is not wheelchair bound, right?
No.
So, she, like Sarah said, found that blind spot and ran with it, and she worked really closely with a bunch of people that needed representation, and they took all that feedback and they really ran with it, which I know we were commenting on how brave that is. And you said this when we were doing your makeup. How brave it is to take feedback and run with it to the degree that they did.
Yeah,
absolutely. If you watch the interview by D&D Beyond as well, there's also Sam DeLeves on there, and their perspective on it really, I think, is what kind of got me out of that. Well, why would somebody want to do that view? Because when you think about things, we were just watching the BMX wheelchair.
Oh
before
we
came here.
We were getting ready.
man.
Well, we were getting ready, and the boys were watching.
You just hear. Oh my god!
Yeah.
Like
it's insane the
Yeah.
amount of like upper body strength it takes to do something like that, to lift a wheelchair over your head.
But that goes
on one
back to
hand.
that idea of community that you were saying that like we didn't. Well, I don't want to say we didn't know existed, but we weren't exposed to. I know you said you didn't know that.
I had no. What was it? Murder Ball.
Yeah, Murder Ball.
I had no idea that existed.
What is it?
Murder Ball. It's like
It's a whole sport. That's,
with wheelchairs.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It is intense too. It is intense.
I'm like, for a second, I'm like, is this a new RPG that we're doing?
Also, yes, maybe.
Oh yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the feedback.
Oh, I got lots of. Though I will say, this kind of segues into it. Again, Sarah deserves all of the props, right. But like, what a great example of like what allyship should look like.
Yes,
right,
absolutely.
right. So this goes along with the feedback. Yes. How do I put? Yes, Sarah may not necessarily have the experience, right? But they had the wherewithal to know, okay, so I am obviously coming from an able body perspective, et cetera, et cetera. Let me talk to people who, I don't know, are actually have to live through this and get feedback.
Absolutely.
And that being said, I really appreciated, especially the updated version where when they released it out into the world, right? And they improved it, right? Again, from hearing and having an open,
from taking that feedback,
exactly, open, constructive criticism. However,
all right, so
you want to take over this? Good cop.
I'm gonna try and do this with a cool
good
head.
cop, angry cop.
But yeah, there was some negative feedback I saw on Sarah Thompson's Twitter at Mustangs Art. It's just people questioning, like, oh well, why this? It just. I want my game to be realistic. You're playing a game with dragons and magic, and you're telling me you can't get behind a wheelchair that actually exists.
Bro,
Like, it's
that's
ridiculous.
where we draw the
I
line.
know.
Apparently,
At that point,
okay, so
we don't
you're
want you in the community. Like,
you're
just
already
an asshole.
suspending disbelief for dragons and beholders and elves, but no wheelchairs. Like, hold
That's
up,
too far. That's
too far.
far.
It's ridiculous.
I don't have enough to ignore that.
And it really makes me question if either of you, you just started DMing. You haven't DM'd yet, but you will. If either of you were sitting at a table, player or DM, and somebody was like, hey, whether they were in a wheelchair or not, they wanted to play a character that was in a wheelchair, could you really look somebody in the eye and be like, that's not realistic?
No, and even if this didn't exist, right? Even if the combat wheelchair didn't exist yet, I would try and find a way.
That's what I mean.
know-
Like, I think people are pushing back because two reasons. One, I think people get mad when other people make things that are really fucking good.
Yeah, it's jealousy. It's
And they're like, oh my God, well, why can't you just homebrew it if somebody wants to play it? Like, that's what I do. And it's like, because there should be a system, because there should be a unified system that if I go and play with Sarah or I go play with you, that I can pull from the same, because think about it.
Absolutely.
Guns don't exist in D&D, but Matt Mercer made a whole section for people who wanted to play with guns. And it became a real
definitely.
thing.
And guess who didn't get that much?
He honestly probably
shit
did.
for
He
it.
does get a lot of
Probably
shit.
does.
People are fucking assholes.
Sorry, Matt.
He's just really good at how to address it. I would
Yeah.
He
say.
is.
Yeah.
But all that to say, right, is that I think people get mad when they're not the ones that come
Who
up with
thought
a
of
really
it,
good
yeah.
idea.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think it's listening to what you guys were talking about earlier, about how some certain communities can be like really, either close knit to the point of excluding people as well. Even though we talk about D&D for the most part, like all the people I've met have been lovely, open and stuff. I think it also goes back to the idea of like, purism, right? Like this is not in the core book, right? But I think the thing people forget is things like games, things like stories, right? I mean, the whole D&D is a story, right? It's always evolving.
Right.
I mean, look, Pathfinder versus D&D
Right.
5.
They came from the same thing.
I mean, there were tons of people who had like a shitstorm, right? Like, oh, you can't play D&D 5. It's worse. But now look at it, right? So
Yeah, people don't like
Yeah.
5e because it's mainstream, but there's more people in the community than there have ever been
Exactly.
since the 70s.
Yeah.
Like,
And also wheelchairs. I mean, it's not like they were invented yesterday. They've been around for a
that's
long
true.
time.
They're not a modern thing. They
I
had
know.
them in a medieval setting.
Exactly.
So
And again, dragons, But I think the thing is like, I never understood this mindset. Well, I guess none of us, we all can say we've never understood this mindset, but it's like, if you don't want to play it, you don't have to play with a wheelchair. Like the two worlds can coexist. Like there's some stuff that I don't necessarily like about some homebrew stuff or D&D, but you know what? I just ignore it. Like I just ignore it. It's just
here's like a really basic example of that. So there's this feat in D&D called luck, right? There's this feat where like it is some bullshit feat where listen, it's great as a player. You get to re-roll and whatever. As a DM, I hate it, so I take it out of the game. Like,
And that's your prerogative as a DM.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's my prerogative as a DM is to rule that we don't play with luck because it doesn't even the playing. You know what I mean? To even or it's either nobody has luck or everybody gets luck, or I build something into the game that makes it fair. I don't see how including wheelchairs in your game. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it's
I
not
think
like
you touched on a very important point. It's about evening the playing field. It's not like this is OP. If you look at the mechanics, they address
there's
almost
disadvantages.
every,
There's
there's
advantages.
disadvantages. Yeah.
If you get to play an elf, a half elf, you have +2 charisma. How is that fit? Like like what is that any different than?
Well, that's
There's
a
pros-
whole nother. That's a whole nother. That's a whole nother can of
screw
worms.
half elf. No. You know what I mean? But it's just like anything. It has the thing that they did that was so amazing with this is that there's legit mechanics, right? It's not just like here's a wheelchair, put it in the game because it should be there. Should it be there? Absolutely. But the mechanics that are built into it are so well thought out and really like they did so much research going back and forth with people. It's wild.
a lot of time invested. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say even like so just a specific example, like the upgrades, right? Like if I remember correctly, I think it's like on one of the last pages. If you get, everyone's what if it breaks, right? But like I think it's like it can sustain 3 critical hits, and then it breaks down, right. But even like. But then you have to start all over again, right? Like you have to start all over again and you're back down to the basic mechanics. And even for upgrades, it doesn't matter how tricked out, which is actually, that's a really cool image, a tricked out wheelchair.
I have so many ideas.
Oh my God, I know.
Side note, like I was envisioning there's one where like to go upstairs, you like levitate, and I'm like, oh my god, that is.
But what's
amazing.
the difference of tricking out your wheelchair and
Yeah.
adding magical components to your sword?
Yeah,
or
and see,
putting
that's what.
jewels on
Yeah.
your tiefling
Or boots
clothes.
of elven kind that let you run fast. Like, wait,
see-
what is the difference?
And see, at least even then, you can pick up as many magical shit as you want. With this one, you're only allowed 2 upgrades, and if you put another one, like you can't do it because your wheelchair's
It
gonna
can't
be.
hold.
It's not gonna be mobile, and that all of that work you did, like. It is gone. Like if it gets 3 critical hits in a row, it's gone. Like there was nothing left. You have to buy, and that shit's expensive. It's like 500 gold. Like I was like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I would definitely recommend everybody watches the interview because
Yeah,
the other thing that
it's
kind of
30
inspired
minutes.
me. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
only 30 minutes. The other thing that kind of inspired me is just they are so humble. You know, like we
Oh
posted
my
something about
gosh,
talking about this
yes.
today, and Sarah immediately like retweeted us.
I know.
Yeah.
We were super
I
humbled
started
by
like
that.
fanboying.
You
immediately.
did.
Also-
I was literally driving and Scholas texted me. He's like, what the fuck do I do? I was like, what are you talking about?
Also, shout outs to having one of my very favorite action names, Crush. Like,
Oh my gosh.
oh, I was like, oh, I am all for this. Oh.
Yeah. Do we want to? We won't like tell you everything and spoil it because you should totally go and download it and support the Patreon and everything.
Absolutely.
But well, you guys want to talk about now that we're talking about how shitty some people are? Let's talk about how cool this is and
Yes.
some of the stuff that we really like about it.
So ready.
Who wants to start with their favorite feature of it?
I don't know. I feel like this isn't a feature, but I just feel like this should be super like pointed out is when you start with the wheelchair, it comes with an 8-piece set of equipment.
Yes.
Like it comes like a whole like because in D&D if you purchase a vehicle it's the same way, right? So like if you purchase a boat or something like that. So it comes with gloves, obviously. You need gloves. Rear backrest compartment, seatbelt, rear and caster wheels. Tough terrain tires, which very important.
Very important.
Sarah should know
See?
because in a campaign,
we decided that it made perfect sense. We were going over like all types of terrains, and we're like, let's get all wheel tires.
Yeah.
There we go.
Allie,
Furry tires.
and she said that it was dumb.
They
Worth
weren't
it.
going all over terrain. Don't worry about it.
We definitely were.
Additional pouches and weapon sheaths, a seat tilt lever, and adjustable armrest. And I won't tell you about each one, but even each of these things is like super specific about what they have in it. And to me, I'm all about like as customizable as I could possibly make it and like as in depth. Like literally the first thing is gloves to grant protection from friction. Obviously. Like
Yeah.
that cool.
The amount of detail.
That's
and
what I
work that was
mean.
put
It's just
into
like
it. Yeah.
it's so you can see that it's more than just a PDF, like it's a passion project.
Absolutely, and it's something that has been needed for a long time. I mean, the community is supposed to be about inclusion and diversity, right? So just to go back to what we said before, it's kind of shocking to think that this hasn't happened already. But again, it's just.
Yeah, and our big thing is that anybody should be and should be allowed to play whatever game that they want. So the fact that like there's a community that's trying to keep people from wanting to play with wheelchairs is just
You're not a part of the community. You're just
it's
assholes.
still super
Yeah.
bizarre to me. Like
It's and they talk about in the interview. There's some really like it's hard not to. And I'm not an emotional person. It's hard not to
get emotional about
when
it.
you hear
Yeah.
some of the stories of people in wheelchairs or wheelchair users finally feeling like they can play D&D because they didn't feel like, and it's just something as us being privileged. We don't think
and it
about.
just makes me so
Yeah.
upset that, and you touched on it before, you both did, is that like you like the fact that someone because there are a lot of people that have that feedback that's like, oh well, you should want to play somebody different than yourself, but like what's wrong with being yourself? Like,
Every one of my characters has aspects
part
of
of it.
myself.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I am super chaotic in real life, and like all of the characters I play are about as chaotic as I'm legally allowed to be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like
That's accurate. Yeah. And I think you can only get a wave. Like the people who are like, I like to play characters who are different from me are probably just not very self-reflective. I'm like, I mean, like even in Magic U, my shout outs to Magic U server, right?
I get shouted out like 10 times a night.
Hello, friends. I really tried to make a character not like me. And then I started playing with her and I was like, oh my God, this is exactly
This is
like me. This is exactly like me. This is like my deep, dark underside.
I think
right?
it's hard to not
But,
play
yeah.
somebody somewhat like you because the
Yeah.
only frame of reference you have is yourself.
Yeah.
Like,
Especially as a new player, I would recommend
Yes.
doing that
Yeah.
because you're going to be more
Yes.
comfortable. I mean, if you're not, if you're a socially awkward person and you're going to play somebody who's charismatic and flirtatious, it's
No,
going to
you're
make
not.
it really
Yeah.
hard for you to.
no,
Yeah.
you're not.
No.
The
Yeah.
answer is no,
No,
you're
you're
not.
not. It's just not
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
happen.
Yeah. And
Yep.
sorry. This is just a very, 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 very small thing just to add on talking about like seeing representation, why it's so important, right? I mean, this is a small thing. I can't imagine what it must have felt like when people from the disabled community were feeling left out of D&D, right? But we say all of this and yes, it's hard from us from the outside who have been lucky to have representation.
Yeah.
Yes.
But whenever I hear like, oh, does it really matter? I think of the time I first saw Wonder Woman in theaters, right? I was sitting, it was me and my mom is a huge Wonder Woman fan. Like she bought all the comics as a kid, right?
Aww.
We're sitting there and the very first like scene where she's beating up Nazis, I started crying because it was just so powerful. Like, I mean, I'm a grown ass woman, right?
Mm.
I'm a grown ass woman, and I was crying in the middle of an action film, right? But like, it's just, I can't, I hopefully, you can't describe how much it means to see someone like you doing these badass things,
Right.
like
Exactly.
kicking Nazis' butt or
Being
kicking
the hero of an
Yeah.
kicking
adventure.
dragons'
being the
butt,
first-
right? Being the hero.
First female superhero,
yeah, and
really, yeah.
Especially when there's all these tropes, especially about people with disabilities or people who are in wheelchairs.
Yeah.
There's always this trope of, the big one is, I can't remember exactly what it's called, but again, it's like the victim, right?
Of course,
They
yeah.
actually brought that up in the interview.
I think it's
Damsel in distress. type
yeah,
thing.
it was like, it's called like something. It's like not
Sarah's an English major.
yeah. I
Just so
can't
you guys
remember.
know.
It's not like caretaking porn. It's something like.
Oh
you
my God,
know-
they use the word in
yeah,
the
yeah,
interview
you know what I
too.
mean?
Oh, did they?
It's
Yeah, it's something porn, like you said.
not like caretaking porn, but or like I can't remember. It's like that again. That when it's like whatever the equivalent of white savior is, for being the other
yeah,
one.
they say
right?
it. They say it in the interview too.
I can't remember.
Go watch this D&D Beyond It. It
Yeah.
literally has everything that
Yeah.
we're touching on.
It's
But they
like-
say that it's like
yeah.
you shouldn't look at. They do a whole segment on it
Yeah,
about
yeah.
how you shouldn't look at when you're creating a character with a disability. You shouldn't look at them and use them as the reason to have sympathy and to make the heroes feel like they're doing something heroic, because people in wheelchairs are just normal people who use
Yeah,
wheelchairs.
exactly.
Exactly.
So that's a whole thing. They do touch on that in the interview towards the end.
So
Yeah.
I would say just go back to the mechanics of it. One of my favorite is razor edges. So
Yeah.
two sharpened blades shaped into hoops are mounted on the push rims either side at a slight distance so that the user's hands could still push the rim without injuring themselves. This weaponized rim deals an additional 1d6 slashing damage to your tire strike attack. This weapon can also be silvered at any blacksmith for an additional cost, 60 gold pieces. I have so many ideas for what I want to do with MPC for our Burning Wheel. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously this isn't designed for Burning Wheel, but that's the good thing about Burning Wheel.
We can
It's
just
so-
take it and
Yeah,
we
exactly.
can
We
do
can
whatever we
do
want.
whatever we want. Exactly.
pretty much, yeah.
So I'm definitely
Yeah,
looking
yeah.
forward to doing that very soon.
Yeah. So one of my favorite, I just want to read this just to give you all, those of you who haven't read this, an idea of not just like how, like, of course this thing is so amazing, but how much detail there is. So I'm reading this one thing. This is just the anatomy of the chair, right? So this is just slated wheels. These wheels allow for easy passage over coast, forest, grassland, and mountain terrains. Similar to how a ranger finds ease over lands familiar to them, the artificers who carried out data research discovered that 4 terrain types are the ones most traversed by adventuring parties. The slant of the wheel as they turn inwards and upwards, disperses weight evenly and gives you good control when traveling over these terrains. The spokes are covered by wooden covers to prevent debris from getting tangled in. That is 3 sentences. And I'm just like, I would have not thought of that. I wouldn't have thought of that. Like, I wouldn't have thought of that. Like, oh yeah, debris getting caught in your spokes. Yeah, you know what? That's a really good idea because there are rocks and shit. Like,
yeah,
it's just
and even on the other side
incredible.
of that, I think I brought this up earlier when we were just talking before the podcast. The downhill, getting an advantage for going downhill.
Yes.
It's such an awesome idea, and it's something I probably wouldn't have thought of. But
but it makes so much sense.
It makes so much sense. Exactly.
Sense.
Yeah.
It does. Sarah Thompson did such a great job of both being innovative but also very intuitive. Like nothing feels it feels very streamlined as well. Like it doesn't feel like clunky or awkward, or how sometimes like different magical items can be, and things like that. It just feels so natural.
Super easy to understand too. Like you take a look at and it's formatted even in like the D&D like stuff.
Yeah.
It really is like it's formatted perfectly, but you take a look at it and it's so easy to understand. It's broken down by the equipment, actions, features, and upgrades. Like that, like it's
and they really
simple.
thought of everything from it being autism friendly to the
I forgot about
doing the audio version. It's really
like an all-inclusive
thing. Yeah.
Inspiring is the word. There really is. I like to think that we try to do a lot in the community, but we've done nothing, remotely close to this. So it's super inspiring to know that there's people that do this all the time.
I do also want to shout out. I mean, I'm definitely reading it much bitchier than it probably was meant, but I love like how throughout the thing, like you could see like the author like blah, 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 blah. And I know you jackasses who are out there and going to critique me like, as already mentioned, why do we categorize the equipment? And then it's almost like a mic drop, like, well, in much the same way a Dungeoneers pack comes with lots of handy little tools.
It's true, though.
The combat chair comes with handy. Like, I just love, again, I'm definitely reading it way more bitchier, but
you know
I
what?
also appreciate it.
Whatever, though.
I appreciate it.
When you get a Dungeoneers kit, you get 5 billion things. Who needs, I don't even know what they're called, I don't know how to say
I
them.
literally don't use most of them.
I forget I have that stuff.
Or whatever. You get like 100 of them. What are you doing with 100 of those?
How are you carrying those?
Also, you have 100 of them. You only get 8 things here, so relax. Whatever.
Just, the other big one, before we wrap up and everything, the other big one was I saw the negative comments was doorways. Like,
what about doorways?
What about doorways?
They were trying to say that you wouldn't be able to get in with the wheelchair when the doorways in a map are automatically roughly like 5 feet.
First of all,
it's ridiculous.
Let me comment on this.
Are there doors? Like, are there?
Okay, in D&D specifically, those squares on those maps are 5 feet. ADA only requires 3 feet. So figure out the fucking map. That's 2 extra feet.
See, it's just.
Like,
I think it just comes from people.
Again,
they just want something to say.
They just want something to say.
Again, dragons, guys. Like,
yeah, okay. The wheelchair doesn't fit through the door, but the dragon does.
Like,
the dragon's on the other side of the door, bro.
I'm like, this isn't like an IKEA furniture. You don't like take apart the dragon and put it back into the dungeon.
Right.
Like, also magic. Like,
also magic.
You could just tiny that shit.
My most hated one, orcs. The moment orcs got introduced to this, okay, you can't say anything about a wheelchair. That's ridiculous.
Scala was done. Like,
yeah,
loved all in even D&D. When he got into the orc section, he goes,
"You can have orcs."
Skipped it right away.
But you can't have a wheelchair.
Yeah, you can't have something that actually.
What if you had
exists
an orc
in a wheelchair? I was just about to say.
It's coming. It's coming.
Okay, whoever.
Scala's next character, half orc.
Okay, whoever is watching this, the 1 to 3 people who are watching this, whoever makes a half orc
in a wheelchair,
you get a special shout out.
Yeah, using the combat wheelchair, send us your half orc in a combat wheelchair,
and we'll display it.
And we will, we'll display it next time. We'll give you a shout out. It'll be super fun.
Absolutely.
Oh, man. So all of that to say, please go and visit their Patreon. Their Twitter is... Do you have it?
You just grab my phone. I don't want to mess it up.
Yeah, let's make sure we get
For,
everything.
for Sarah
We have
Thompson,
Sarah and-
I know it's on Twitter at Mustangs Art, and for Sam Delev, it is at Tchaikovsky on Twitter.
Why don't you spell that?
Is
Yes, CHAI, so like chai, and then KOVSKY.
I love that
I
so
know,
much.
it's super cute.
I love that so much.
And then go to Patreon, go to YouTube, and look up Combat Chair. It's the first thing that comes up.
Yeah.
We probably shouldn't say this, but there's like 2 videos on YouTube. The one is the interview, and the one is like someone bashing it. So don't watch that one,
Nope.
or watch
Watch-
it and then just.
Yeah.
I'm waiting till after this to
Watch
leave
it.
my comment on that video.
Watch
And
it.
then it'll be us. So hopefully it'll be us going
Yeah.
past the negative comments
Yeah.
right after the D&D Beyond interview.
Or do what we did and just like counter every point.
Oh, yeah,
you know,
turn it
just-
on and
just
then-
like yell at it, just like we yelled at like a baseball game. Like, what do you mean?
yeah, we listened to it just so we could get heated right before
Great.
we came here.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Although we did give them a view, so whatever. But
Yes. And also, again,
Enjoy it.
we all
only
wanted
one
to
view
say,
though.
we all just want to say a huge thank you to Sarah Thompson and I don't remember the other name.
Sam
Sam
Delev.
And the amazing community of
Yeah, what is their
I'm
community
terrible.
called
I
again?
am terrible with names.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry.
Also,
Hero. I'm sorry. Heroes Without Limits.
Yes.
yeah, huge shout out to them. You are an inspiration to all of us.
Absolutely.
And we are so excited to review more of your really cool
Yeah,
stuff.
we're super excited. Thanks for liking our tweet
Yeah.
It's still
Yeah.
shocking.
or retweet. Was it a retweet?
Was it a retweet?
It was a retweet.
So
and
thanks
all
for
that.
retweeting our
Oh,
tweet.
man.
We have no Twitter followers.
Yeah, and there's more to come.
What are you-
They talk
what are you
about
talking
things
about?
like Pathfinder.
Four.
What else? Starfinder.
Yeah, and they're gonna go on and do not just stuff for D&D. So
Yep.
we'll definitely
Yeah.
look at that stuff, and we're super excited to be a part of the community that you're in. So
Yeah. Your community is the community you want to be a part of.
yeah,
Absolutely.
Not the one that can accept dragons and not wheelchairs.
Yeah.
Or half orcs in wheelchairs. Come on, guys.
half orcs and
Ridiculous.
wheelchairs. This is gonna be my new hashtag.
Hashtag half orcs and wheelchairs. Yeah.
All right. So on that topic, we're going to talk about some content creators, I guess is the word we want to use.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we decided to put some stuff out on Twitter and Instagram, and we're always like looking, and I mean, we follow a shit ton of people online. We really do.
We
We're
do.
always interested in what people have to do, but we really wanted to see if anyone was like trying to promote their stuff recently, because obviously that's what we're trying to do. So we thought, small community supporting small community type stuff. So we have 2 people or 2 community, whatever. I'm going to shout out a podcast tonight, and Scala's going to talk about an Etsy shop.
Absolutely.
So do you want to go first?
Sure. So just to give the name, the Etsy shop is.
I have it on here.
Oh,
I
perfect.
do.
I just don't want to mess it up. It's That's So Kim Designs. That's SEW, like So Kim. Great name, by the way.
Oh my
I
God,
know.
the best name.
Oh, man.
And then on Instagram, it's SEW, so _Kim _designs. I already ordered a product from them. I'm excited for it to come in. I ordered the navy and gold satin dice bag
Oh my God, is that the
drawstring
one?
pouch
Ooh.
with
That's what I was
pockets.
gonna order.
I didn't even realize when I ordered it that it has pockets, which is, I mean, for me as a DM,
has pockets.
yeah, I think it has like six pockets
See.
inside of it, which I want to use for like separate dice for each NPC.
See.
So I'm excited about that.
2 things that always should come with pockets.
Dresses
And dice
bags.
pouches. And you're good.
How much did you pay?
I think it was 25. Yeah, $25 for, and
That's not bad.
you could, I mean, it's satin and I believe polyester.
Ooh.
The review on there, it's a 5-star review, and they pretty much, I mean, something you're not gonna get anything better than a handcrafted item, right?
Hell yeah.
That's just one of
Also,
those things.
if you're a Pokemon fan, she has a Slowpoke
Yes.
dice bag on. It literally is Slowpoke. Whoa. It literally is Slowpoke. It's
Oh,
got like a
man.
tail. Oh my God. It's super cute.
Oh, man. You all know where I'm going.
I know.
The next shop I'm going when I go behind
So
the
yeah,
curtain.
that's So Kim Designs. Check
Yeah, so
them
definitely
out.
check them out. The Etsy shop, follow them on Instagram, and again, it goes back to supporting local businesses
Right. So business and podcast. So
and podcasts.
I found a podcast. They're playing D&D. Their name is Sword and Quill. I have a lot of their information, so I will throw that all out there, and we will link everything in YouTube because they have a lot of stuff. So they are playing D&D, and they're 2 years into their campaign, I think. I think it's 2 years before they actually started recording. So it's kind of cool. They do like a little intro episode. The DM talks about who the characters are, where they're at in the story, and then the next episode is literally them playing. Okay, so you can't direct message them on Twitter, but they should be fixing that.
Yes.
I tried to search for them today. I went through their podcast. They are at Sword and Quill, so spelled out swordandquill.podbean.com. And if you look to the left, they have all of their information. So they have a link to their Discord, which I joined because, as you guys know, I'm a huge Discord fan.
That's Discord server number 31.
Yeah, actually exactly. It is. So I joined their Discord today. I got in contact with their DM, and I think it's Zane, so don't kill me if I said it wrong. Super cool. We talked for a little bit. The great thing about them, besides it being a D&D, podcast, and I did listen to it. They're super fun to listen to. For those of you who don't know, I took German in college, and I was obsessed with learning German, and they're not native English speakers, most of them. They're native German speakers, so extra excited. I love their accents. I'm not gonna
It was just for the accents.
Well, sometimes it'd be like that.
You gotta get a gimmick.
There's also a girl named Allison, so shout out to sharing a name.
There you go.
Player name, not character name, though whatever. So they're super, super nice. Their podcast is really easy to listen to, and if you were interested in getting into D&D, it's a really easy transition. They don't have a lot of episodes yet, which is great. So you're not super far behind.
You're not behind, exactly.
It's not like you have to watch 500 episodes.
Yeah, like me with
Critical Role.
Yeah. Trying to catch up.
It's a lot.
I digress. I caught up on Critical Role, and then the quarantine happened, and I was like,
what
am I going to do with my life now? But anyway, but now we got all these new fantastic podcasts to catch up on.
Yes, and so they are only on episode 2, 3?
Oh.
They have their little intro episode, and then definitely 2 episodes, and I don't remember if there was a third. I listened to 1.5 episodes. So I'm gonna go back home and finish listening to them. I love their voices.
Same. I'm excited.
Yeah. Okay, so they are at Sword Quill 1. Also the DM Zane, he is a narrative designer for video games, which is also super cool.
Ooh.
And like I said, he's super awesome. I did get to talk to him for a little bit today. I stalked them on Discord. Found them.
Allie's a great stalker.
Because I wanted to make sure that I talked to him before, or any of them before I went on here and started talking about their podcast. So I was like, hey, I'm going to talk about you today. Hope that's cool. He was super cool about it. I don't think he was super creeped out, but
it's fine.
I don't know. Hopefully not. Hello. Hopefully you're not super creeped out. So yeah, Sword and Quill, Sword Quill 1, and then swordandquill.podbean.com. They're also on YouTube at Sword and Quill, so you can just look them up. And I think that's all of their social media that I have. I would go on their Twitter, and then their Twitter has all their links.
Yes.
That's how I did it.
Oh, I forgot to mention that when we're talking about a combat wheelchair. Yeah, if you go to Sarah Thompson's Twitter, you can find the link for the PDF and all that stuff. Pins.
And the Patreon's up there too, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So you will be able to find all of that stuff. Whew, man. Yeah, so shout out to those creators. We had a bunch of people last minute write into us, so we haven't had a chance to look at everybody's stuff that they're promoting.
People wrote in?
Well, commented on
That is so cool.
It's what happens when you just spam Instagram and Twitter for hours at a time.
Oh, man.
Eventually someone answers you.
Yeah, and thank you to everybody who's giving us feedback and kind of the support. We had a lot of people reach out and kind of just be like, I think it's great that you're supporting small businesses and that, and kind of
and shout out to even our, it's really great. The community has been super, super accepting, and thank you to everybody who has also given us feedback on things that they want to hear. We got the idea for the how to get started actually from a friend that we used to work with.
Yep.
Who we just didn't think would be into gaming, has been listening, just supporting to support. Yeah. And he gave us a lot of feedback. So
Yeah, and I believe he said he's interested
Yeah,
in kind
he's
of getting
interested.
into it.
Yeah,
So.
and please give us feedback. We want to hear from you.
What do you guys want to know?
I might actually come out and resurrect my social media stuff, which I haven't used in years. So
That's true.
I would, yeah. I mean, I was not gonna lie, I was kind of nervous with all of this, but I mean, seeing like our YouTube and the tweets and the whatever you kids are doing on Instagram, right?
No,
Whatever you kids are doing on the Insta.
Yeah. It's been really reassuring, and like we love hearing from you guys.
Yeah.
And it helps. I think it helps us grow too.
Yeah.
We want to do cool stuff, and speaking of blind spots, right? Like we always want to do cool stuff, and we like it when you share your cool stuff.
Yeah,
I think talk about
that
your cool
our
stuff.
social media is really good for that. I think we follow a lot of people who are interested in newer content creators, and we're trying to give back in that same way. And even though our community is small right now, we're trying to give back any way that we possibly can.
Absolutely. And let's not forget, social media in general is a double-edged sword. There's a lot of great things that happen. It's also, it can be very toxic. So that's why I, until we brought back the podcast, I wasn't even on Twitter because
I'm the Twitter person. He's the Instagram person.
Yeah, exactly. Instagram, there's less words, so it only gives people so much space to be an asshole.
So if you're on Twitter, you're probably talking to me, and if you're on Instagram, you're probably talking to Scala.
And I just show up and sit wherever they tell me
and
to.
sometimes I hack the Instagram to post embarrassing things about Scala, which I will do today because I got an embarrassing video of him.
I said that to people.
No, I had him with the hat in the car.
Oh, what hat? I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know why I thought that. I should have known that was going to happen.
I don't know why you trust me. That's your fault.
I don't know what hat you're talking about. Right?
Right. De Coppervon.
All right.
So check out those people. All the
Absolutely.
links. This is me putting the links in the YouTube.
Plugging them in.
Plugging them in. Check out the YouTube. Obviously, this is going to go podcast first, so you won't have those for a few days, but make sure that if you're interested, you do that. We will tweet them and all the other fun things.
But
just look for that tonight.
Definitely check out our YouTube. Like me and Allie, we worked really hard on our makeup. And Scala, we couldn't get Scala out of the bathroom. Like
honestly,
it was rough,
Honestly,
I don't like. You don't need that much. You're beautiful just
you're
the way you are.
Just the way you are.
You don't need that much.
I know, but why not make myself a little more beautiful?
You're right.
We used to put him in front of a vanity mirror when we filmed him.
Even that made me nervous. It's not like there's a camera and like the camera is not connected to it, but it was like, oh, this is so fancy. There's lights everywhere.
So check out those creators. I think it's time to get into game review of the week. Dun dun dun.
I love the hand motions for every review. So 5-minute dungeons.
Sarah, you didn't play this game with us.
I did not.
Sarah is being an adult.
I did.
And like going to school and working and stuff. So she didn't play, but you can ask questions about the game. Maybe that'll help us.
I'm good at that. Okay.
So 5-minute dungeon.
Oh wait, I already have a question.
It's called 5-minute dungeon.
No, that's not it. Did it actually take 5 minutes?
We will get there.
Ooh. Okay.
Well, I got to get like an announcer voice. Welcome to 5-minute dungeon. Is that good?
That was pretty good.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Okay, so 5-minute
Can we add
dungeon.
like effects to that? Like just
Air horns in the background.
So 5-minute dungeon. What is 5-minute dungeon? Do you want to explain it, or do you want me to explain it?
You're way better at explaining.
Okay.
5-minute dungeon is a dungeon cooperative game where you each play a character, and it is a card game. And the idea is to get through the dungeon as quickly as possible. You only have 5 minutes for each dungeon. You actually are on a timer. You have 5 minutes to kick down all the doors, fight all the monsters, and then defeat the boss. And you have 5 dungeons.
And the characters are great.
Oh my gosh.
The last person you face is a dungeon
It's
master.
the dungeon
It's the dungeon master. Oh, okay.
It's the dungeon
I thought you were gonna
master.
say like the dungeon. I was like, damn, that's really meta. Like,
no, the dragon is the
That's pretty
4th
awesome.
one, and the dungeon master is the 5th one. The first one is like a baby.
Yep.
Like a giant baby.
a giant baby.
It's baby something. I forget.
Yeah, it's
baby
like a-
barbarian or something like
It's
that.
like
ready.
a giant baby. You could open that up.
For those of us who have not played.
So
You know what? This should be our new this should be our new segment. YouTube explaining new games to me.
I mean,
Ooh, there's the baby.
whatever. Yeah. So we have lots of different characters you can play. All the characters were double-sided. So you had options.
All right. So first one, boss number 1. the baby barbarian.
Yes.
Baby barbarian. Yeah.
So the first time we played the game, the very, very first time, we did not make it out of the very first dungeon.
No.
Oh.
We didn't know what was going on. And
So like a regular D&D game.
pretty much.
Yeah.
But after that, we beat all 5 dungeons in one go.
Yeah, it's very simple, and I think it's another one of those games that it's good for exposing you to kind of the classes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That would be in D&D.
And they're not like the exact D&D classes.
No.
Like they have Gladiator, but then they have Barbarian,
That's
they
what I
have
played,
Valkyrie,
Gladiator.
and Paladin. They have Ranger and Huntress. So like one side is D&D, and then the other side is like D&D-esque. Sorceress and Wizard.
And it is wild because it's not turn-based. It's not like initiative and turn-based. You're going at the same time because it is cooperative.
Oh my god, yeah.
It was
so it's more
insane.
like
And then
more
Thief and Ninja.
It's like Spit. Like
It's
the
like
card game
Spit.
Spit almost, but you're
So-
cooperative.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Let me see one of those cards. I'll show you.
Yeah.
So basically, the way the game works is it shows you like which things you need to throw down, and the idea is to work together and not all throw down the same thing. So like someone has to yell that they're throwing down a sword, and someone has to yell they're throwing down like a dash card or whatever, and everybody has
Oh.
different cards.
Sword.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
they're super simple, and
shield.
depending on your class, you get special things. So
Ooh, this one is a mighty leap.
yeah, there's like obstacle stuff. So we played, it was the two of us, Mitch, my brother, Paul, and his girlfriend, Savannah. And I would like to point out that Savannah was not interested in the game.
Yeah, she did not want to
She
play it
was
first.
not super keen on it when we tried to explain it. She was like, maybe not. And man, she got super into it.
She carried us.
She carried us. She played the wizard. She carried us this whole game. Without her,
Yep.
we would not have survived. She was like,
No.
she was dropping fireball like,
Clutch.
Oh
MVP.
my God.
Fireball.
literally, she's like, fireball, 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 destroy person, destroy monster. I was like,
Yeah.
oh my God, Savannah, I don't have any cards. I'm not doing anything. But the game is high intensity,
Definitely.
fast paced. In reality, 25 minutes. That's how math works.
Yeah.
In reality, it's a 25-minute game. Obviously, we took breaks between the dungeons because then we talk strategy in between each dungeon. You can switch your character if you want. So like they all have special abilities.
That's cool.
Yeah, so we realized that we had like double abilities, so we switched some of them so it would make more sense. So we had all of our bases
'cause-
covered.
Exactly.
And it was really fun.
It was. So, how many inches? How many inches are we giving this game?
I'm gonna give it 7.
Ooh,
That's the
okay.
same. Yeah, I'm gonna give it 7
That's
too, with room for improvement if there's like expansions and stuff.
Room for growth. You mean?
Room for growth. Yeah, sorry. Room for growth.
So it
It's
is
a grower?
replayable in the sense that there's no the outcome. It's not like a story, right? So it's not like you can't replay it 100 times,
Yeah.
but it doesn't allow for much strategy outside of the basic strategy that you make with everybody else. It's not like other games where like even if you play a different class, your strategy is still working with everybody else. Like the strategy is still you have to be cooperative and someone should have a kill person and someone should have a kill monster and someone should have a destroy obstacle. Like
Yeah, they
that
all have their pros and
strategy
cons. Yep.
doesn't
Yeah.
change. It's just how you play together changes. Like my brother was a super quick drawer. Like he was drawing cards
Yeah.
like crazy, and by the end we were like, stop drawing your cards so quickly because you have all the cards we need, and if you run out of cards, you run out of cards.
Yeah.
That's how the strategy changed. It wasn't like when we were playing like Unmatched, for example, where it's like depending on the character you played, you really had to change your play style.
So it's it's more of a game where even if you're playing a different class, where the play style is
It's not very different.
similar.
Yes.
Yeah. Whereas if again on a match like the way I play, to be fair, the way I played Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde was not great because but like that character was so different than like
how I play
than
Dracula.
how you play
yeah.
Dracula because like the
With my raptors.
yeah because even so it sounds like even though the flavors are different, it's
That's
still
what it
the
is.
same bar of candy.
The flavors are
Like,
different. It is still the same bar of candy.
Yeah.
What about you?
Such a good analogy.
That really is.
You're welcome.
Me as
really-
far as what?
Just in general, like general feedback on the game.
Definitely replay value. This is like a game I can imagine me bringing out like during get together of drinking and just.
I was gonna say, can you imagine trying to play this drunk? Oh
That
my God.
I want to.
We should play
We
it drunk.
gotta make this into a drinking game.
That would
Brew
be
a
fun.
drinking
Like if you
game.
like have to take shots, if you like add a cards
if you are
or something.
21 or over.
If you're 21 or over,
Yeah.
be good.
Yes.
Okay, replayability. Again, I agree with you. Replayability. Strategy.
What would if you were talking with the creator, right, and they were like, okay, like what would you like to see? What would you like to see?
I don't.
In either newer expansions or maybe changes.
I don't.
Or
In my opinion, I don't know if you really would change anything. It's just the type of game that it is.
Gotcha.
Because
Yeah.
it's collaborative. I don't know if there's anything you could add to it that would. Like the goal, like here's the thing, it would be different if it wasn't on a 5-minute timer. If the goal was to go like round robin, you could make suggestions and like if you were to take your time. But because it's speed is the problem, you can't make it complex. Like if it's complex, the game doesn't work.
We forgot about the timer. There's actually an app.
Yes.
For a timer
pretty
for
cool.
5-minute dungeons.
It's pretty funny too. It like talks to you.
Yeah, it's got a bunch of little puns and stuff in there. And it
Yeah.
goes, yeah.
Yeah,
this is
great.
my
So
type
it's
of
up
game.
to Sarah's wheelhouse.
Yeah.
It's cute. It's like, oh, time to defeat a baby.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, I gotcha. But it sounds more like I wish I was there on Sunday, but allergy season got me down, and you can't
You
ever
never
be too
know with the
careful.
Roni, right? You never
Never
know.
know
be
with the
too
Roni.
careful. No. But it sounds like it's more for my people who like my types of game style people who are more about collaborative and get like really anxious thinking about like.
Are you trying to say that you don't like the way I play because I try to kill people?
No, I like it when you try to kill people, just not when you try to kill me. That is very stressful. That was very, very stressful. So for all of y'all who get stressed out by competition, it sounds like our type of game where
It's
we just want to be friends.
But it is, but that's the thing, right? It is fun, but
Yeah.
it is competitive. It does have that
Yeah.
like, unlike most collaborative games, it does have that like heightened anxiety because you're like against a timer.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like
You don't want to be the one holding down
You
the
don't
team.
want to be the one
Exactly.
that's like, I don't have anything.
Because
I'm
I don't
so
remember if we
Yeah.
mentioned this, but if let's say you get to the fifth person, you don't finish, you start from the beginning.
Oh, we
The
did
first
not mention that.
boss.
If
Yeah.
you lose in the dungeon, you have to go back to the first boss.
to the very first one, baby barbarian.
Yeah.
Baby
So let me
barbarian.
tell you, I threatened everybody. If you
Yep. And it worked. It worked.
we got there. We only had one dungeon. I think it was our third dungeon where we only had 11 seconds left. There was like one dungeon where we just,
Yeah.
it was hot garbage. We could
It
not
was
pull
right there.
cards. And then I think Paulie ran out of cards like super fast.
Yeah.
It was just one of those. But most of our dungeons we got with like a minute left or like right under a minute.
Yeah.
So we did pretty good. We ended up working really well as a team, which was nice. We didn't fight. Like we didn't have any moments of like, why are you not pulling your weight?
No, I think
So that is very much
the worst
like
thing that happened was like we're putting our cards down too quick at the same time
and losing double
those
the amount of
yeah.
cards. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was also kind of the fun that was like, oh my God, now we're like running out of cards and resources. But super fun game. Replayability super high. Artwork is cute. It's one of those ones where you can't like sit and appreciate it because you're just throwing cards
Yeah.
so fast.
Ooh, that one's cool.
But the cards are really simple too. So it's like, I appreciate this because there was no reading except if you had a spell card where you had to like read what it did.
Yeah.
But
Which is smart because it's such a fast paced
It's
game.
so fast. And once you play with the deck, you know your deck. Like, you know, Savannah's deck had Fireball. That's all
Allie's
I know.
stuck on the fireball.
All I know
Oh,
is,
so exactly like D&D, right?
oh
It's
my God,
just-
because I was playing the thief or the whatever and the ninja. And so like one of my things was to steal people's hands. So I started stealing her hands.
Wesley?
So I started stealing her cards because she had fireballs. Like, give me your cards.
It's funny because Allie wouldn't even say anything. She would just take my cards like out of my hand.
Draw new cards. I mean,
was
it
great.
worked. And that's the thing, though, right? Because it was collaborative, so you know it wasn't like hurting you. It
Yeah,
was
yeah.
just whatever.
It was just hilarious.
It's super fun. It definitely would be a fun drinking game if you were legal.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
The game is now I don't know what it is in a game store. I bought this a long time ago, and we literally just opened it on Sunday, like
Yep.
fresh from the package. I ran to the grocery store and was like, "Open this game." I yelled at Scala. I was like, "Make sure this game is open by the
Make
time
sure
I
it's
get
set
home."
up. Yep.
It is $21. I know on Amazon. I know it's like 35-ish at Walmart, which makes me believe that it's like probably 30 in game stores.
Get it together, Walmart.
This is just what I saw online. Just a quick Google search. I did remember to look it up this time because last time I was guessing. Also Unmatched is $30. Just so everybody knows, I did look it up. So this game it runs about like $20 to $30. So I guess depending on where you get it from. So average price. I mean, 20 is actually cheap for a board game.
That's not bad.
Absolutely.
I mean, especially for all the artwork that you get and like all the different classes you get. Like, I feel like most board games would be like these 3 and then the rest are expansion packs.
Yeah,
Right,
and it's up to
right.
5 players, so it's a good amount of players. It was hard with 5. It was easy with 5 players because we had a lot of cards. It was hard with 5 players because it was a lot of voices. And the more players you have, the more cards it adds to the deck that you go through. So by the end, we had to get through 50 cards.
And what's the age on? It's definitely a family friendly.
Oh, 100%
Yeah, I was about to
family
say.
friendly. It says 8 and older, but as long as your kids, there's no reading. Like the only reading
No, it's kind
is
of like
the
Uno cards in a way.
yeah, the spell cards are the only reading. But besides those, I mean, there's literally like my class had like nothing to read. Like mine was like straight.
Yeah.
So
And trust me, there are definitely worse movies out there than maybe. But you know, if you're worried about the killing, just say they're going to take a nap.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
there
all.
we go.
And I
That's
mean,
fine.
like it's
But there's also, I mean, man, I work with children. There are a lot worse things out
out
there for kids.
it's definitely family friendly, 100%, way more so than some of the other games that we've played.
Absolutely.
It's definitely family friendly. It's definitely fun, quick. You don't have to be like a D&D fan to play it. Like I said, my brother's girlfriend is not into those types of games, and she had a really good time playing the game. It's super straightforward. And so we give it 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10. So
7.
we're kind of rating
That's
it.
above average. You know, that's you know what? That's above average.
That's actually above average.
That's like a nice, it's a nice rating.
Again, especially for the price.
that's
Yeah.
I think that's actually why I bought it. I go on these things where I just
I
buy.
think there's just
I
too,
just shop.
there's just too much hype about 10. There's just too much hype.
Yeah, I just like go on random days where I just like to shop and buy things.
Yeah.
And this was one of those like just random shopping. Like I saw it online and I was like, yeah, sure, 5-minute dungeons. And then we just haven't played it. So that's that. Next week, we have purchased the games. No one knows this except me. Lucidity, which is I don't know, scary like dice game.
Okay.
I'm about this.
I also purchased the Dahmer whatever party.
the Donner Party.
Yeah, that Donner.
I'm so excited.
I thought you said like Jeffrey Dahmer. I was
No.
like, that was like an RPG. Like, what is? Who created this?
Well, it's a
Yikes.
cannibal game.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
Pretty much,
whatever. I
yeah.
did say Dahmer because that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. Donner.
Donner Christmas party or something
Donner.
like that.
Yeah.
Same thing though. It's a cannibal
Yeah.
game.
So it's like
Yeah.
horror.
I bought
style.
horror games for next week. I don't know. I just thought they would
Awesome.
be fun.
Oh boy.
Yeah, horror
Yeah.
games.
I definitely want to get into the
Ooh.
what is it called? The escape room games.
Oh
too,
yeah,
that
that's another thing.
Yeah.
we're gonna
I-
do that down the line.
I think that we should go buy a few more of those and then like compare different brands and see which ones we like.
Yeah.
Ooh, you know, it'd be good too if we can find small Kickstarter stuff.
That is something that we
yeah.
talked about. Yeah.
Yeah, I just bought. Well, I not just bought during the Roni, though. Pandy.
Pandy.
I kind of like
Both would-
Pandy.
Yeah.
Pandaroni.
The
I kinda like
Pandaroni. Okay.
Pandaroni.
The Pandaroni. Sure, Sarah. The
Sure.
Pandaroni.
Right. It's not. I bought. I can't wait to play it, and I can't wait till we review it. It's called Here to Slay,
Yeah.
which
Great
is
title.
looks
Yes.
super adorable. First of all, anything that references Beyonce is amazing. but this is actually amazing because it sounds like it's like D&D with like cuddly forest animals. So
Yes,
can be mad at
it
that?
looks super cool. I remember. We do have a Kickstarter. We are going to be supporting.
ooh.
When they put their Kickstarter up, we
Alien
found
Attack.
yes,
Yes.
we found them through our Instagram. They're doing like an alien attack game type of thing. Yeah, they don't have it up yet on Instagram, but as soon as they do, we told them to message us. And
Yeah,
we
they just
will-
posted like an
like some
update
teaser
and
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah. So as soon as they do, we will be the first to.
Yeah.
absolutely.
We'll be on there. And if you're listening and you do have Kickstarters, hit us up.
Yeah.
We're super into playing.
Because we want to play them.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm running out of games that are like different to play.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I'm
Yeah.
not running out.
Yeah.
I have a very large shelf of games. But I want to buy more games.
Yeah. And especially
we gotta
like
take another time warp trip soon.
Yeah, we do. We should go this week.
and we especially always want to shout out like the small indie games that are just trying to get on their feet.
Absolutely.
Because we not only love to support you guys, but also we can finally say like,
We like to play.
oh, well, we had the original edition, right?
Honestly, yeah,
Yeah.
there is something to that.
Builds up our YouTube cred.
Definitely.
So yeah, if you have anything that you want us to support, let us know.
Yeah.
We're all for spending our money.
Or just say hi.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're all for spending money around here.
Yes.
That's what we like to do.
And same
But-
thing with topics.
yeah.
If there's any topics you guys want to hear on the podcast, we're definitely more than open
Yeah, that's
to
free.
speaking about it.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's free. That doesn't cost me. Well, I mean, it costs me some money, I guess.
Yeah.
But
we'll even be more open to spending money when we set up a Patreon.
Yes.
yeah,
We're
coming
not
soon.
putting that off anymore.
Yeah.
We have to-
I
Yeah.
almost set that up, today because I was just like messing.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was
yeah.
looking at the Patreon for the combat wheelchair, and I was
Yeah.
like,
Ooh.
Skyla's gonna yell at me one of these days.
Yep. Every day.
Oh, good.
every day.
Thanks,
Every
guys.
day.
Thanks. So that's that. We have a few more minutes before we wrap up here.
Mm-hmm.
So rounding out tonight,
Mm-hmm.
we talked about some resource material for getting started, particularly we talked about D&D, like we said, because it's just the easiest one to access, but particularly any tabletop games in general. Shout out to Damien, a friend of ours, who gave us that topic for the night.
Yay.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely.
Hey, Damien, I hope you're doing well. I
Yeah,
haven't seen you in a while.
he just had a rap song drop.
Yeah,
so
he just dropped the song.
he just dropped a song, so we'll link that too. We'll link
Absolutely.
everybody we
Side
mentioned.
note, every time I see a Funko Pop, I think of Damien.
Yes, Damien also did a Funko Pop.
Yeah,
YouTube channel.
he's like the Funko god.
He
is-
was. He sold all that.
He sold
He
all
sold
that?
all
He
that?
did. He did.
Did he at least get like a nice profit?
I don't know.
I'm sure he
Oh,
did. He had
yeah.
a huge collection.
Yeah.
But shout out to Damien for giving us that topic,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah,
from
yeah.
someone who's not super interested in these types of games, it was really inspiring to
Yeah.
have somebody reach
Yeah.
out.
I mean,
about
thanks for listening in
Yeah,
general.
thanks for
Like,
listening.
That's awesome.
So we talked about those resources and, Reddit, YouTube, Facebook, Discord, Roll20, D&D Beyond, and every other thing in between. I could give you a bunch of like small ones depending on what games you're looking for. So if you have specific games, you can totally leave them in the comment section or message us. And I could give you resources for specific games that aren't D&D.
Yeah.
I use a lot of like not official websites for things like Vampire the Masquerade and stuff because I just think they're easier to read than like
We could spend a few
Oh,
minutes
yeah.
talking about that.
Oh yeah.
about what VAS.
Are you joining the play by post with me and John?
I might actually do it.
Yes.
Yeah. I actually
Okay.
I've never played
Yes.
VTM
Oh, I guess
before.
Yeah,
this
no,
is
neither
about
have I.
starting new games. So yeah, I guess
Yeah.
let's talk about that. Go ahead.
Yes.
What do you guys want to say?
I'm so excited.
Allie just brought us into I guess it's a one shot that I'm hoping expands to not a one shot because it is so much
is
fun.
so much fun.
Like it's literally
Yeah.
the way it starts off. Like it begins with
Yeah, yeah.
strategy. Like you're planning out what you're doing. Just about the system, the politics and all that is very interesting. I went through a wormhole of lore and all that.
Yeah,
and
this
it was
is
so much fun.
Yeah.
Vampire the Masquerade V20 to be specific because there's a bunch of
Yeah,
versions.
Yeah,
I believe
yeah,
that
there's like
it was
5.
your first
There's-
time DMing a
It
V20?
was my first time
Ooh,
DMing.
it was
for
so
She
good.
did
We would have never
amazing.
known.
She did
Thanks.
amazing. It was so much
Amazing.
fun.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Everything from the music
You know?
to we used Roll20 for it. It was
Yeah,
it was
we
so
used
much fun.
Roll20.
I also highly recommend. I think I definitely mentioned this. Maybe it was like in the introduction videos or somewhere. But another great resource. This is what I mainly use. I find playthroughs.
Yeah, we did
so
talk
like,
about those.
So like I don't. I think I
you
can remember.
had one.
Yeah. So I don't like. I'm not. It's weird because I write a lot, but like I understand things by like watching things from example. So I didn't really feel comfortable. I wanted to play a Vampire Masquerade, but I'm like I don't feel too comfortable. So instead, I watched LA by Night. Right,
It's a Geek and Sundry.
Yeah, it's Geek and Sundry though. Now they've gone under their own production company.
Ooh.
Congrats
Good for
to
them.
you guys! Can't
More
wait
air
for
horns.
season 5. Oh, but anyway, so watching them has helped me a lot doing this. And so when I was creating my own character, it helped a lot just knowing like, because in those of you who are not familiar with VTM, it is very different than Dungeons and Dragons. There's like
Very
dots,
different.
Yes.
and like
the whole system is different.
It's a whole
not
different,
even. There's
right.
not even like a
Yeah.
minuscule amount of
It
comparison.
was it was
in
a
them.
And it's a tough community.
it was a big it's a big transition. So like just knowing like there's so many skills. There's like alertness versus awareness versus and like just watching a playthrough, I was like, okay, so I am never going to use leadership. So cross that out, right? And just help you narrow it down.
We kind of talked about that earlier. Is that is it's a great resource, and it
Yeah.
also helps with something that people don't realize is important is terminology. You don't learn terminology until you really start playing the game, and watching playthroughs helps with that a lot. Like you'll start hearing like. Let's just talk about Vampire the Masquerade. You are not called vampires. You are called kindred.
Yes.
And you would not know that just off. I mean, you would if you read the book, but
Yeah, except for shout out to John, our coder. I don't think we told her this. We have a 2-person coterie called the Camp Vamps. So
Camp Vamps.
the only vampires that call themselves
the
vampires.
Camp Vamps.
Humans are not called humans. They're called kine. When you
Oh, I thought
are,
they're called meals.
well, that too.
That's
Blood bags, blood dolls.
My character only feeds
from
on
vegans.
vegan people. So
Yeah.
so watch out if you're vegan.
Yeah. Everything from like the person who turns you is called your sire to you being their child with an E.
Yes. Don't
Yeah.
forget the E.
I told you my
the
phone
chile.
my phone auto corrected it.
That's how much she writes
hilarious.
about it, that it autocorrected
Well,
the child with the E.
I'm on play by post, so
Yeah,
like
yeah,
on
yeah.
my phone, I do a lot of that. So yeah, that's. I don't really know. Oh, we're talking about VTM. Just we're talking about new things. Yeah. So even I DM'd that for ST'd that in VTM. It's called storytelling, not dungeon mastering.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's an ST. So that was my first time STing that. It was their first time playing. So even though we've played hundreds of games and hundreds of hours, we're still learning. And this happened last night, 2 nights ago.
Two nights ago.
ago.
Monday? What day is it?
It's
What
Wednesday.
year is it?
Yeah, 2 days ago.
What month is it?
So two
Who am
nights
I?
ago. And I texted Scala. I was like, I was super nervous.
Yeah, I was. You could not tell, but
No.
and that again. I know I've already said this to you, but that's what makes you a great DM. I was immediately comfortable, like in
Yeah.
character and with the mechanics.
Oh,
I didn't
yeah.
feel kind of scared to ask questions or anything, and part of that's probably from me getting more into
Just
it and
yeah,
everything.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just the story alone, and just kind of the mistakes we made. In all reality, I'm gonna
You
have to wait
guys
a week.
did
to see it.
really well
We
until
really-
the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it
I
was
mean,
really
going.
the dice.
Yeah,
It
I
was the
closed
dice.
myself in the back of a truck.
Yeah,
with-
but you
A
know
truck
what? Like,
with something that's gonna kill somebody.
and you
Yeah,
know what?
yeah.
Like we were doing so well, but then I knew the minute, like when it opened, and it was like, and then you just hear Allie like, two kindred are there with AK-47s. One is torpored with a chain, and there is artillery. And I'm like, oh,
And that's where we're gonna end the session, guys. Have a good night.
Oh boy.
Yeah,
man.
but that's all to say that like and by no means am I like these DMs who've been DMing for like 40 years and nothing can scare me. But it's all to say that like I still get nervous DMing and learning new systems and being a player a lot of times. Like when I'm a player in a new game, I get nervous all the time.
Especially
Oh,
with VTM,
man.
right? 'Cause there's a lot of vampire ass shit out there.
Yeah.
VAS, baby.
Yeah, I mean, me and my co-camp vamp, we're joining, and hopefully Scala, like we're joining a play-by-post soon. And I mean, like, Allie basically also right?
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. Oh, never mind. Allie, you're a character in there?
Yeah,
No?
totally.
Yeah, right?
Yes, I co-write for it, just nobody knows.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't
blew
care.
up
I
your
don't think
spot.
any of those people are gonna ever
Yeah,
watch
I'm
this.
so
it's not-
sorry, but it's okay. But anyway, like it's like I know people in there, but it's still terrifying. It's still scarifying.
This is sort of that community I was talking about earlier. That's very VTM specifically is very made by the fans, and like they're the ones that have made it what it is, and there's something super special about that. But sometimes it's a little scary. I'll admit. I've been playing VTM for over a year now. It's got to be like more than a year and a half, and I'm still like kind of scared of some of the people. And like I'm not scared of anybody.
Yeah.
So,
And that's not to
That's
say
what-
we
yeah,
can
yeah.
understand. Again,
Yeah,
like you
yeah,
said,
yeah.
it's really like fan created.
It's
in a way.
really
So
fan created.
I can understand why it's
fan
like that,
loved, and like they put so much work into the community, and they're kind of purists in the sense that like in the communities that I play in, they don't like the new version of Vampire the Masquerade the way that a lot of people don't like the new version of D&D because it like gets rid of a lot of lore and blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff. So I understand it, but it doesn't make it not super stressful. But it is a freaking great. I love Vampire the Masquerade. It is an awesome system. I love dice pool systems way more than I like the D20 system.
Yeah, and it's a pretty simple dice pool system to
and
follow.
the character creation's really easy, with the exception of having to read about. Just like how you would have to read about your class, though. You have
which
to read
is
about.
fun. And there's YouTube videos
Oh my
for
god,
that as well.
so fun.
The dots.
The dots.
If you're math illiterate like myself,
That's
the dots
it is a lot of
the worst.
Yeah, when at character creation, there's a lot of math. That's the thing, is there's mathematical aspects when you level up. It's like, oh, this thing is 5 times current rating.
Nope.
This thing is 2 times current rate. So there's a lot of that, but it is a great system. It is great for politics if you guys like that.
Yes, intrigue-based games.
Intrigue and scheming, and there is great combat heavy characters. I am not a fan of the combat system. It is way too intense for me. It's too intricate. You shouldn't have to roll a dice for every single thing, in my opinion, but some people like that.
Yeah.
It's not for me, but I play a completely social character, and I've gotten into 0 fights in over a year and a half. So it is doable.
Yeah. Or again, do what I did and have one really social character, and then again, my friend, we usually team up a lot on character creations because we have a really fun time. Usually I play the social character. He's literally playing my guard dog. He's a gangrel who turns into a dog. So like,
who is
you can make it work.
Who is based on your
based on my
real life?
actual dog, Melly.
Shout out to Melly.
Melly. Ugh. The best girl.
So to wrap up, I don't know how we got onto VTM.
We just had some
because
fun.
new games. You're talking about
Because
new
new
games.
games.
So don't be afraid.
Don't be afraid to try things.
But it's totally normal to feel nervous.
To feel scared, to not feel like the community is. Sometimes the community is not your community. I am much more at home with like the D&D community because I just feel more comfortable because I know the system better, I think.
Yeah. She's not a fan of vampire ass shit, you know.
I'm like vampire ass shit. Bloodline just got delayed again.
Or, like
Vampire ass shit.
Or, like me and Scala, like I follow the people. But Allie's a little different because it's a cult. But I mean,
yeah, guys, join my cult.
Yeah. But basically, I mean, whether your community's in a game or just like your friends that you make along the way.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh my God. I literally made a section on my Discord the other day of games that I'm confident I can run now.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys saw that, but I literally made a list of like, these are all the systems
hilarious.
I've played.
Yep.
These are the systems I feel confident running. So,
So Blade Runner next.
Blade
Is
Runner.
it Blade Runner? What was the one that? Knives in the Dark.
Yes. That's the next game we're playing. We're playing Thieves.
Thieves.
I'm with it.
Is awesome.
We're playing Criminals. That's it.
Shout out to Casey Quo. We miss you.
Yep.
Miss you so much.
She plays
Blades in the Dark.
She plays the best character. It's a Orin High School host club for ghosts.
Yes. Man. All right. So check out all of the content creators that we shouted out. When this gets to YouTube, we will post everything in the links in the bio.
Absolutely.
Everything.
We will tweet everybody out. Thank you guys so much for all the content creators that reached out to us. It's nice that you guys want to be a part of whatever we're doing. Most of you have more followers than we do.
Yeah,
so
that's
it's still really
just,
nice.
honestly, the retweets and the likes alone are really encouraging, inspiring for us, so we appreciate it.
I mean,
yeah.
we would still do this if you were shouting into the void, but it's kind of
true.
nice to have the void shout back at us a little
exactly.
bit. Like, it's
there's
nice.
people actually listening.
So thanks for that. Thanks for friends and family who've also been supporting us before we really got anywhere in the community. And shout out to all of our games, all of our friends. Check out 5 Minute Dungeon. It's Connor Reed 5 Minute Dungeon. Just so you know, I want to shout out the creator person on there. And give us some topics for next week. We do have some ideas, but we didn't have this idea this week. We changed it when Damien reached out to us, so we're ready to go. Shout out to the Combat Wheelchair one more time. Sarah and Sam, thank you guys so much for what you do for the community, and we'll catch you next time on BDE. Bye.
See you.
See you later, friends.